But getting back to it for a second, I remember Rachel being around a lot at Tom Tom. And I remember around the same time going back and forth, and her ended up, Sheena was giving her a place to live, right? And she had a conversation with one of our very close friends, and I was right there in the conversation because I think I was waiting for you or something, and I was around this. And I remember her talking about how nice Sheena was. And she said in this interview, I paid rent, right? Well, your sister lived in the same apartment complex that Sheena let Rachel stay at her apartment at, right? Those apartments at the time ran from $2,900 to $4,800, depending on what size apartment you had. I remember Rachel saying that she paid, I think said she paid like $1,000 or $1,500 or something like that. Yeah. She didn't pay a whole lot. So I understand that you're saying you paid rent. That's not the full rent. You got a full apartment. And she kind of went with this narrative that it almost sounded like she was saying Sheena has like this sort of, you might as well have said she had a God complex or a savior complex. Like Sheena was trying to be the mother, the sister, and she gave me these things and she gave me this place to live. Girl.
And where did this Mercury and the cat story come from? That was never true.
I mean, I would love to ask Sheena about that. I'm pretty sure that is not true, but also I'm curious to see, I'm sure everybody, especially the Vanderpump Rules cast, they're not going to talk about this right now unless they talk on their own platforms. And they're smart for doing that because if she's going to, put this out there, they might as well monetize in the way that they put it out there. But in this instance, I'm thinking nobody else offered you a place to live. If she gave you a discounted rent, I don't know where else you can go in Los Angeles and get an apartment for under $2,500 and it not be a complete, I'm ready to get out of here.
No, crap hole. Yeah, no, 100%. Right. I just kind of everything. I feel like we were talking in circles because what I got from her, or she was talking in circles, is she's apologetic and she's accountable, and she's done the work. But let me tell you about all the excuses of why I made this decision. And let me tell you that these people were never my friends, these LA friends, which we damn well know that if you live in someone's apartment, they're your friend, and she talks about how she was an acquaintance with Ariana. They were show acquaintances. That's kind of how it works. But you've been on the show for a while. You know what I mean? We've been at parties with all of them together. Right. So it just I'm a little lost. I want part 2. I want her to dive in a little more into trying to convince me that there were many things to make her make these decisions. Mm-hmm. It's silly to me.
Well, she also said that she almost went back to the show. And she said, and Bethenny kind of said, listen, this is a zero-sum game. This is kind of like you either kill or you be killed. You either destroy somebody that season or you get destroyed. And if you're anything in between, you're a friend of or you're fired. That's what she said. Right. And for her, she said, I really thought about it and I almost went back to the show because I didn't want to end off and have my last season be me being the villain of this story. And Bethenny said, that right there is the addiction. That is what keeps everybody coming back.
And I agree with Bethenny on that point. Because if you told me that, I'd be like, let me sign my damn contract right now and I'll go prove them all wrong.
No, that's what Tamara said when she came back. She's like, I didn't want everyone to remember me falling into the bushes drunk. I wanted a redemption,
when I think about Tamara Judge, that's all I can think about her many times of her stumbling drunk, just like Countess Luann falling into some bushes. Yeah, no, we're okay with it. I mean, she makes it fun. It's not like, there's not this going on. It's the part 2 where, just to go back to the whole friendship thing and saying that these are not her real friends, where she admits that Ariana has always been encouraging to her and was being a friend, and she is remorseful that she was so deceitful and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you just said your acquaintances, not really friends, but you're saying that she's always been so nice and encouraging. And it just makes me think, I'm like, I just don't feel like because I believe that she has done work. I believe she is accountable. I believe she is very sorry. But then the excuse part of they're not my real friends, but then you backpedal with, but Ariana has always been so great to me. You know, it's strange. It's strange.
Well, I think that also, you know, I spoke to Dakota this morning, who immediately first thing in the morning was like, did you see this? And I'm like just opening my eyes like, oh, okay. Wow. When I did, we had a conversation about it as she listened to it, and she had a great point. And that point was, if you want to tell your side of the story, I think that it's important to keep it about you. I think that in the moment of telling your side of the story and trying to throw like other people under the bus, even if you feel like they did that to you, I think that you start coming off a little defensive and losing the argument and or the conversation, right?
Right.
And another thing that sort of like it threw me for a loop. And the reason why it threw me for a loop was, we talked about this before, guys. We had one of the producers reach out to us, and this was around, it was after season 8 for season 9, right before the pandemic hit. And they wanted to have a conversation, do an interview at SIR, blah, blah, blah. And I always wondered, like, how worth it is reality TV? Like, how much money do you really make? The housewives are on a different trajectory from maybe the cast of Vanderpump Rules.
Sure.
And Bethenny Frankel made an interesting statement saying, you last season make less than my interns. What? She gave you, I mean, to be fair, you got Scandival and she's making less than the interns? I don't know about that one. That's wild.
It is wild. You know, like, guys, we did a podcast because, you know, producers did want to sit down with Adam and I multiple times. They don't have a gay couple on the show. I was managing Pump. Adam was working at TomTom, had previously worked
Shout
at
out to Jeremiah.
So yeah, so we sat down, we did the whole interview process. And I mean, I'm just not like, there was like a moment where I think people wanted me to not like Sheena in this interview. And I was like, I think she's great. Like, you know,
do you remember that?
Yes.
Oh
and
my
like,
God,
well,
they were trying to get you to talk shit about Sheena.
And I couldn't, because I know who I am and I know what I say and I stand behind what I say. So I couldn't do it. And then you and we did a whole podcast episode about this. If you go to Up and Adam's podcast, it's near the beginning, maybe like the 6th episode, when it used to be Hot and Messy podcast. And we talked about exactly why we could not do this show. Adam and I, at the time, we were doing interviews for the show. We were 7 years into our relationship. We were engaged. This is not the time to start a reality show. You see what reality show does to people. You see what it does to relationships. And I just felt like, you know what, Adam, you and I have our shit together. Why would we go play in the dirt with this? It is a decision, but we were able to make that decision.
Right.
Right.
Also, to be fair, that's just where, because we went through the interview process, I just want to kind of give a quick disclaimer. That does not mean that you're necessarily going to be picked.
100%.
So if this comes back and it's like, you guys weren't picked for the show. We never said that.
100%, but we decided not to move forward with any more of creating, you know, context for a reason to put us on the show. True. Right. So that is where we drew the line. We were like, this is it. It's cool. You know, my mom was there. She was next door at Tortilla Republic having a drink, waiting for us to get done with this. So
when it existed. Yep.
Yeah. When it existed. But
okay. You brought this up. Layla C said, Sheena's vlog shows Rachel traveling and partying with her all year long while not filming. I don't go on vacations with people that I'm not friends with if I'm not being paid. That right there is an incredible observation.
Great point. That is a great point.
That is what I don't even know how to. Sheena could literally post that right now and be like, but wait, as you guys know, this shit doesn't stop.